Hi, my name is Caleb Henry. I am a senior admission counselor over here at Belhaven University. As for students that are coming here, what's something that's special is the community, is the people who legitimately care for you both in and out of the classroom. And so for me, I saw that in the theater department as a student, and I kind of just love the idea of being able to give that back to students while I'm here.
Yeah, so also be my next question. Like, what is your favorite thing about Belhaven? Being a student, being at administration, I was in administration and a student there as
Mhm.
well. Tell me a little bit like what's your favorite part of it being a Belhaven student or being at Belhaven?
Yeah. So one thing I mentioned is it is a Christian university. So therefore, part of the things that we're doing is we're wanting to be Christ to people.
Right.
And so what I love is in that idea of serving people, in that idea of doing what Christ did to others, it creates this really awesome community where people are willing to sacrifice for you, where people are willing to help you when you fail. Because that's one thing that I think students have to realize is there's going to be a time where we fail. There's going to be a time where we mess up. But surrounding yourself with a community of people that will be there for you to say, hey, to hold you accountable, say, hey, that wasn't right. Or also, hey, I see you're down on your knees. Let me help you get back up. And that was a huge thing is it creates a loving community, both in the students, but also the professors. That is something that is huge. Our professors do such a good job in the classroom itself, but they also do a good job outside of the classroom, meeting during their office hours and helping to mentor students. And that's a huge thing is you're going to be able to talk with your professors. You're going to be able to relate with your professors and more than just how do I get an A on this assignment, but also how do I learn more about this time? Where do you see me? Where are my strengths? You can ask the professors that and they'll give you their honest opinions. There's a lot of guidance of it's more than just what do I want to do with this degree? It's more than just about the job, but it's also how can you help shape me as a person? How can I be the best person that God wants me to be?
That's right.
Um, yeah, and it's a huge community it's a huge loving community to where it's one of those places where people are going to say hi to you when you're crossing campus, and you're going to be stopped about 3 or 4 times because you see someone that you love and see someone that loves you.
Because the class size is
Exactly.
the class is 12-1.
Yes, class size ratio is 12-1. So that does mean that means in the classroom you're going to get a good you're going to be seen, you're going to be heard, you're going to be able to be taught specifically to your standards. Because the part of the deal is a good education is going to bend a little bit to the student. The teachers have a chance to get to know the student and say, hey, I explained it in this way, but this student, let me tell you, they learn a little bit differently than this person over here. So let me talk to you a little bit more one-on-one. And that's a huge thing with smaller schools like us is you get that attention with the teachers. But then another thing is you get is the community changes because now rather than just hanging out with your major, hanging out with those people that are just like you, at a small school, you are forced to kind of hang out with everyone.
That's right.
All different types of backgrounds, different types of majors, and it kind of gives you this whole feel to where everyone is feeling the mission of the school, regardless of whether they're in the arts or whether they're in the STEMs and sciences or whether they're an athlete or whether they're a student leader. Just that sense of community, that sense of, oh, we're all here for a purpose, we're all here to grow together is huge. And it's something that I absolutely love.
And one thing I tell students about Belhaven too is, especially smaller schools, but especially at Belhaven, is that you get a chance to meet people from all over the world. It's just that small knit community. It's easier to get involved. It's easier to meet people. It's easier to network. And the connections you make, they last a lifetime. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let us know. When does the admissions application typically open at Belhaven?
Yeah. So it is actually already open. It opened on July 3rd. And typically for most users, you'll see it open in July. And so that means, hey, right now it is open for people to go on there. You just go to belhaven.edu.
Okay.
And typically as we finish up this year, we typically don't start reaching out to the new applications until August, September, just after we finish this closing year. But I say still apply, get in there early, and then send your transcript and ACT score in so that we can go ahead and get you accepted as soon as we start doing that. But yeah, it is already open.
Wonderful. So class of 2024 can already go ahead and start submitting their application to Belhaven. Go ahead and send in their 9th through 11th grade transcripts and progress transcripts. Go ahead and send in any AP or college credits they've completed so far.
Mhm.
in their ACTs as such. Now, what is a deadline? What is you guys' deadline for? I know the answer, but let the people know
Yes.
what the deadline is for the application for ACT. Because
Yeah.
now that they're senior year, they may not be quite satisfied with the score they have just yet, and so they want to retake it. When is
Yeah.
the last day you'll accept the application in ACT?
Yeah. So we have what's called rolling admission. So
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that we accept applications all the way up until the week as week classes start. So you could say you're a senior right here and you want to come into the 2023 year. It is not too late to go ahead and apply. And so what's really cool about that is for those people who are it's taking a lot of time, long time to decide because it's a big choice, or for those people who didn't think college was for them and realize, oh, actually it is, and I want to do that. It gives you all that time to be able to do it. Now, what I will say is earlier the better. That is huge because you don't want to be surprised by anything. You don't want to have to feel rushed to make all these decisions right away. So the earlier you apply, the easier it is to get all the information earlier so you can make that decision. So again, you can wait until about a week before classes start to get everything in. But I always say apply as soon as you're able to. Again, that just gives it more time to get to know the university and vice versa.
Right. Are y'all doing the priority? So like the earlier you put your application in, maybe the earlier you have some perks and benefits there, or are y'all
Yeah.
doing it?
Yeah, so so it's one of those things where we start like as soon as something happens, we typically go in order of when we received things.
Mhm.
So it's not exactly the whole priority of, hey, get this in by this time. But what I do know is that there are certain times like this past year, one of the things that we did is we sent, like for the people who had gone ahead and committed and to us, we went ahead and sent socks out on their January year. And then there was a time this past year where we wanted people to visit us. And we said, if you visited before the end of December, we would double that visit scholarship and different things like that. So there's not one specifically that I have where here's the priority, but do know that
To
moving
get
earlier is
perks.
always better and you can see those perks a little bit more. Yeah.
Great, great. Is there a certain ACT or GPA that ensures an academic scholarship?
Yeah, so first of all, if you get into Belhaven, you are going to have an academic scholarship. What we need for you to be able to get into Belhaven is you need to have a 2.0 and an 18 on the ACT. Now, we also recognize that not everybody's the best test takers or have
Mhm.
difficulty getting to those tests. So we do have a test optional option. So if you have a 2.75, you can get in without test scores. That being said, I always say send in your test scores. I've seen some students who say, oh, my ACT is low, but then it ends up being above an 18. They could have gotten a little bit more scholarship. And then also that helps with class placement and different things like that. But in kind of the short answer to the question, an 18 and a 2.0, but then a 2.75 if you don't want to include test scores.
Right. And do y'all take the ACT super score?
We do. We do. That's a big thing is take it as many times as you can because that's going to help get scholarships up. And here's another thing. If you send your ACT in, but you know you're going to take it a few more times, you can continue to send that until classes start. So I've seen some people who send it in and they got a 20 on the ACT, but they took
Right.
it again and were able to bump that up a little bit more. And so that's a big thing is continuing to take that ACT if you feel comfortable or if you want to do better. We'll keep on accepting that. But again, to your kind of specific question, can you ask that question one more time? Because I want to make sure that I got
Oh
everything
yeah,
in there.
you answered it. Yeah. Do you take the super score?
Yes, we do take super score.
Wonderful. And that's for ACT. I mean, that's for scholarship and admissions purposes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The only one where you have to have the whole test score is there's a couple of majors that have specific requirements, like with nursing. With nursing, you have to have a 21 to come in, and yeah, and so in order to kind of get into that specific major, and then by your junior year, you have to be able to take the whole test and get a 21 without a super score. But that's for that specific major right there, and that's kind of across the board in a lot of different schools.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Is there a separate application for scholarship than
Yeah.
admission?
Great question. There is no specifically separate application for scholarship. If you apply to Belhaven by applying to us, you're applying for scholarship. Now, I will say there is one or two scholarships that require kind of additional things on the student. The first one is for our creative writers. We have a specifically, there's our one like full ride scholarship is our Angie Thomas scholarship.
Mhm.
And so there would be kind of a separate portfolio that they have to turn in. But for kind of the typical student, just by applying, you are applying for those different scholarships. And here's the deal. is call and talk to your admission counselor if you have any questions, because that's a huge thing. Is us at Belhaven, we're not trying to trick you and be like, oh, how can we get them to come without giving the least amount of money? It's not like that.
Right.
We see that you are available to get a little bit higher scholarship, and if you need to do anything, we call and we tell you. And I'm going to be a little bit prideful here. We have an amazing office, and we have amazing people who are there on the side of the student to make sure that you get in there, that you fit in there, and that you're also getting great value.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. And so I think you kind of answered this question, but are there any other unique scholarship opportunities at Belhaven other than the academic scholarships?
Yeah, so there's a few different ones. There's ones like, for instance, there's kind of some ones that are dependent on kind of what major you're interested in. So if you're in our STEM, any of our STEM majors, you could get a STEM scholarship. If you're in any specifically, some of our other majors, you get a Blazer scholarship. If you're in any of our arts, you could audition or submit your portfolio to get additional scholarships there. And then, excuse me, I'm
gonna get some water too. Don't worry, we got it.
Oh yeah. And then in addition to that, we have different scholarships. Like if you're involved in choir, orchestra, band, different things like that, you could get some money off. If you're on campus, we want to make sure that we know, hey, you're getting an on-campus grant for living there, because we want to get as many people on campus as we can. And then there's kind of a couple of different other ones. Right now, we're offering a full tuition scholarship to pastors' kids, to PCA pastors' kids.
Presbyterians, like for Presbyterian students?
It's for specifically PCA pastors, okay. Yes. And that's just for those students, because we recognize that how much pastors are influencing, and how much pastors' kids influence as well. Because if you're a pastor's family, you're doing some pastoring yourself.
Right. From personal experience, yes.
Exactly. And then there's a few different ones as well. We have an additional need grant that's going to be based off of need, and so we would look at what you're getting on your FAFSA, look at what you're getting on Belhaven A, and seeing kind of if there's any additional ones that we can work with. There's a lot of scholarship that's available to students, and again, my deal is we are going to make sure we're going to walk through that with you. Every student that I call and I walk through their whole scholarship package, so they know exactly what they're getting into.
Wonderful. And then is the FAFSA required for scholarship and admission?
Mm-hmm. So the FAFSA is not required for admission at all. We do not require people to fill out the FAFSA. I've talked to some people who aren't comfortable doing that or don't necessarily, and so we don't necessarily need it. But here's the deal, is that is showing a lot of aid that you could receive. For any that need scholarship that I mentioned, we do need the FAFSA so we can see kind of what additional need is there. So there's certain scholarships, a majority of our scholarships, like our academic, like our Blazer, you do not have to have that FAFSA. But if you want to be any of our need-based grants, or any or that pastor scholarship, or that NG Thomas scholarship, you're going to have to do that FAFSA. So for majority, no, but with a few specific circumstances. I always suggest do the FAFSA. Regardless of whether you're going to accept any of the federal aid or anything like that, do the FAFSA, because that's going to help you see, hey, what could be available. You might go into it thinking, I'm not going to get anything, and then you do. And then there's different things like Mississippi state aid that you could receive that do require that you do that FAFSA. So we want to make sure that you set yourself up for the best possible thing and see all your options. So I always suggest, please do your FAFSA. And just as a note, is typically that opens up in October, but this year it is going to open up in December. So keep that in mind.
Yes. So, and we still don't know what it looks like on our ends. A team here all went to Washington, like this past week. We spent like just about 3 days in Washington learning about it. We still have no idea when it's going to launch. We have no idea. So we're actually telling students to apply, or to come back and see us rather, at Get to College in January, because there's a possibility it might open like the 15th of December, and students are out of school. They don't think about that. Yeah. And so it'd be interesting to see how like that affects like just different timelines across the college world. But is there a priority date, as you know of as of today, for the FAFSA completion? Like, as far as like, you should have your FAFSA complete by this time in order for us to review your scholarship here.
Yeah, so we don't have that exact date out yet, just because of everything that's happening with the FAFSA. I do know, like last year, what we typically said is, if you have your FAFSA in and everything done, we will get you packaged by December or by January, something like that, get you as soon as possible. As of right now, we don't have that exact date.
Right.
But again, I say do things as early as possible because that's what's going to make it to where you do not miss those dates when they're done. Unfortunately, I don't have a good exact date for that quite yet.
Right. So I believe you already answered this question. Like, when's the last ACT date accepted for scholarship consideration? But y'all, if the student, let's say, finds out that Belhaven is the school for them come like the August, like right before classes start, they will still get the same scholarship they qualify for had they applied in December.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's wonderful. When does the housing application typically open, and when is the housing application deadline typically around?
Gotcha. So, what we do is that we typically open the application April 1st, or it's actually March 31st this past year, but typically right on that cusp of turning from March to April. And so another cool thing for us is that we don't have specifically freshman dorms. A new student can come in and get in any specific dorms that they're thinking of the count of their gender. So that's actually a really cool option there. We don't necessarily have a cutoff other than like classes when it starts. It's kind of like rolling admission. It's the same thing with there. But just keep in mind, if you want to get the dorm that you want, make sure to do it as soon as that application opens. So look for your date for March 31st or April 1st. It's typically one of those 2 days.
And the main point too, and you said it over and over again, which I 100% agree with, stay in touch with your admissions counselor. And from personal experience, working at admissions at Belhaven and the wonderful team that's there, you want to stay connected with your admissions counselor. They're going to help you stay on top of those deadlines. That's been huge.
Yeah, no, and that's a skill is for you high schoolers that are watching.
Uh-huh.
Learn how to answer your phone, learn how to answer your texts and your emails. That's just something that's going to help you not only in admission so you don't miss anything, but also in real life as you have to start being able to coordinate with others. And so that's a huge thing. And know that I kind of come from the background of I believe that there is no such thing as a stupid question. Like legitimately,
Right.
there's a lot I didn't know anything about it about the admission process until I went right into it. So if there is a question that you have, call us, let us know. We are on your side. We are not here to make you feel embarrassed before not knowing something. We're here to make sure that you know everything and they can make those good decisions.
Right. And when I see students here in the office and when I counsel students and families, that's one of the first things before we get into anything college admissions related, before I even ask them what colleges they're interested in. I'm like, okay, is your voicemail set up? And how does your voicemail sound? Because as you know, in the admissions field, it is crazy, when you're trying to deliver some exciting news to a student and the voicemail is just wacky. It's just like, I want to throw everything off to this. I want to delete the application. I don't do that. Never have. But, it's just, frustrating. And you, as a student, you want to put yourself out there as the best representation of yourself, right?
Let's put forward. This is one of the times where you're starting to make one of the first decisions as an adult.
Right.
And you're able to kind of start showing yourself off where, hey, I am representing myself here. My parents are representing me, but also keep in mind, I am representing the people that helped build me too. So I want to make sure that people know how mature, how of an adult I am. That's not to say you need to be perfect. That's a big thing I tell people is like, you don't have to be perfect when you come to Belhaven, but you have to be willing to step up and start learning.
Right.
A good approach to life is aim for continually getting better. Having the grace to understand, hey, I'm not going to be perfect. Not everybody else is going to be perfect, but we can't be in this continual state of trying to grow and trying to get better and better.
That's right. And I also work with them on the emails. Like, what does your email look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, with the best representation of yourself. I 100% agree with you. So are there any unique or new programs that Belhaven's introducing for the fall of 2024 that we should be telling students about?
Yeah, so we have actually a few different unique ones. So specifically, we have a lot of different majors. I just want to say that across the board, we have a ton of different options for you. As far as new ones, we have our fashion merchandising that is open up. Yes, I know. You're super excited about that. Think of that one is going to be kind of a lot of the business side of fashion. And a lot of like, how do I sell my brand? How to develop and sell this brand? So we have that's opening up. And we also have, I believe, an animation minor that's opening up. I want to say an art department, and then specifically in like our computer science, there's going to be a video game emphasis there. So those are some of kind of the new ones that are happening. But we also have a lot of different ones that are there and that are just really amazing. We have our business school is always thriving, doing phenomenally, which you might know a little bit more than I do. And then and then we also do well with anything that you're kind of thinking pre-med, because we are less than a mile away from UMMC.
Right.
So, which is the largest med school in the state of Mississippi. So we have a lot of students that will go over there for their pre-med. We do extremely well in our arts. That is a huge thing. We're one of 34 schools accredited in all 4 of the major arts. That's music,
Tell
theater,
us
dance,
about it.
design. It's so wonderful. And then if you're looking for Christian schools specifically, it's that pool gets even smaller right there. And then always do well with biblical studies, always do well with anything that's reading and writing based. But again, I would say, because we want to glorify God, that means we have to do everything to the best of our abilities. So you'll find that match in our academics. And go ahead and ask us if what we have, or if there's something that we don't, because another thing that we also offer is our double major 5th year free. So if you come in as a freshman, you can choose a specific major and then decide to double major and get a 5th year tuition free. So you have time to finish that and you don't have to stress as much about money there. And that helps where if you want to diversify and hit 2 kind of different things, or if you want to specify and have 2 things that will land to a very specific job. So there's a lot of things you can do there and a lot of opportunity for you there, no matter kind of what major you choose.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on a little bit. I was going to say, like, tell us a little bit about your art program. I know Belhaven is only one of 2, am I correct? One of 2 schools in Mississippi that you can get an accredited degree in art.
Yeah. And that's, are you talking about the arts in general, or specifically art and design?
So like not art and design specifically, but just your school of just art. So like your theater, film, you have photography, you have creative writing. You can get an accredited degree in those.
And what that means that it has been kind of approved by accreditors that, hey, they are doing their job and they're doing a good job when it comes to showing and teaching these arts. And that's a huge thing. And for us, that's also, keep in mind what people are doing all day. They're watching television, they're on their phones scrolling, they're looking at different designs. There's so many people, there's the culture right now is so driven by art, so driven by aesthetics. And that's the thing, that if you want to lead in this culture, you have to have some sort of into that world. We know that you make a big impact in those worlds. And so that's one thing that we do extremely well. And that's something that, like, the teachers, again, are here. They teach so well. They do a really good job with learning how to find your voice as an artist, but also learning how to say, hey, this is good, or hey, you need to work on this. And that's something that you also, if you're looking for a school for arts, you need a place where people will say, hey, you're doing great, but you also need to work more. Here's where you can work more.
You're going to be challenged in your gift. Yeah,
exactly. Because most of the time, and this goes for all majors, most of the time when we learn is when we fail, when we mess up, when we don't do something to quite degree, and someone comes along and says, hey, you're doing great. I see the heart of what you're trying to do here, but here's how to do it better. And we need those outside forces. Start learning as a student to take criticism. Start learning to ask people that are your teachers. So if you're having trouble with math, or if you think you're good at math, talk to your math teacher and be like, hey, how can I do better? What are the things that I need to do better? Because the more that you can say, hey, I need to do better and I can grow more, that's the more you're going to grow and the better person that you're going to become, and well-rounded as well. And so, again, that just comes to, for us, we want to pursue everything with excellence. And so whether it's arts, whether it's STEM, whether it's business, whether it's on or off, in or out of the class, we want to do everything with excellence.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you kind of touched on it, but do you have any other exciting news these upcoming seniors about, your school, about what you're offering students right now?
Yeah. So it's some of our 2 big ones, our 2 big exciting news things that we have is it's going to be our advantages. The first one is that double major advantage, where if you decide to double major, you can get a 5th year tuition free. And again, that makes it look to where you don't have to panic about squeezing all the classes into one thing. That makes it to where you can say, okay, I have an extra year as a Christian. I don't have to worry as much about money, that I can kind of expand, relax, enjoy the college a little bit more as well. But then also, this is a really, really cool thing, is anyone who graduates with us and have at least their last 60 credits with us, so whether they're coming as a freshman or a transfer, they could qualify for any of our online master's degrees tuition free. And that is
Wow.
huge. Because a master's is kind of, just for those that don't know, a master's is kind of that next section of academics. So it's the thing right after you get your bachelor's. And so that makes it to where it's tuition free for you, and it's online. So you're already not paying really many fees associated with that. And so that makes it to where you can do this master's anywhere, anytime. And what's cool about that is look, it could be up to $25,000 that you could be saving based off of
Right.
it. That's a lot of money, and it helps put you in a pool of a kind of a whole new resume pool that people look at. And it's something that it just gives you a great advantage right now of going out the bat of, hey, I went to school, and for the price of 4 years undergrad, I got 5 years undergrad, a double major, and then a fifth year free on top of that. And that's
Yeah.
huge. Again, we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your coming here, because at Belhaven, we value you as students, we value you as people. And so we want to show that. And that's a little bit of how we show that.
So to put that into context, a student who's interested, say, in business, it makes you more competitive because nowadays, like everybody's graduating with bachelor's degrees. So bachelor's degree is on the scale of uniqueness is kind of like evening out. But what getting a double major and a master's degree would do is put you way over the top when it comes to the workforce and you being noticed as being a unique person in the workforce, adding value to, like, yourself in the workforce, that competitive aspect. So if anyone's interested in business, they could go to Belhaven, get a double major, say like in business and graphic design. Because as you know, like they know there's a business side to everything and there's an art side. Like even the water bottles we drink out of, someone had a design, right? And so you can get a double major at Belhaven, and just for getting at least 60 credit hours, you can get a free MBA, a master's degree. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. As long as you finish those last 60 hours with us. And again, that's huge. That's something that not many people are offering, is that free masters. And it's something that, again, you're setting yourself apart. You're giving yourself another advantage in the world. You're giving yourself another opportunity for people to shape you even more. It is a wonderful opportunity.
Right. And even for teachers, we have a lot of students that are interested in becoming teachers here in Mississippi. Yeah. And so kind of talk about what that track, looks like.
And so there's a couple different ways. So we have for a master's program, we have a master's in education. And what you could do is you could get your 4-year degree and then do your master's of education. And so that would allow you to teach in Mississippi schools. But even some people are kind of taking advantage of a little bit of a loophole in that, and that there are some classes that help get you accredited to be a teacher in that master's without having to, like, so if you wanted to be a high school math teacher, you do math as your main major, as your major, and then take some of those online education master's classes and kind of a few more things. You have to pass a couple of different like tests and different things like that.
Right.
That gets you to where you are able to go to school and be able to teach what you are wanting to teach. It gives you that kind of more direct route right there.
That's so wonderful. Teachers can get their free Master's of Arts in Teaching at Belhaven University. Even if they transfer in, you have to complete at least 60 credit hours. That is fantastic. That is wonderful. Really great opportunity for students. And also, I know you guys are in the process of upgrading some things on campus. Do you have any new news there?
Yeah, so one of the deals is, one cool thing that we allow on campus is all students are allowed to have cars on campus, whether they're freshman or senior, they'll have those cars on campus. Well, we've been doing really well with having a lot of students here. And one of the cool things is that, well, because we had so many students, we started running out of parking. So we have our new parking garage that's completely built. So that's really wonderful. So more people can come on campus. But then also, like, this building that I'm actually in right now is our welcome center. It's brand new. Come visit us, come see us. And this is where kind of the admissions are right there. And then and then campus is kind of being updated. We just put in kind of a new green spot, took a little driveway away, put some green spots in there. And that's one thing I do appreciate about Belhaven, is how well thought out a lot of things are, from not only the academic experience of the student, but what does the student see whenever they're on campus? Is it a beautiful, well-kept campus? And that's one thing I absolutely love, is that you'll look out there and you'll see people working on it and trying to make it more beautiful for every kind of as we go. And that's just one thing I really love, is that there's always that attention to the detail of, like, okay, how can we make campus better? How can it be more beautiful? And that's another thing I love, is that Belhaven is constantly thinking, how can we get better? What is a better way that we can serve the students? But yeah, no, so the exciting news of things that are being built. Yeah, parking garage, having this welcome center, they're exciting and we're wonderful. And again, we're always growing. So that's something I always love.
I love that. Belhaven is absolutely a beautiful campus. So if you guys haven't visited Belhaven, definitely check it out. Anything else as we conclude, anything else that you think would be beneficial for high schoolers to know? I know we talked about having some professional development, getting your voicemail, some kind of open line of communication there, your email address. Is there anything else you think would be beneficial, Caleb, for high school students, high school counselors, I'm sorry, to know about your university as they meet with students?
Yeah. So part of it is just kind of as a summary of everything we said, is just knowing that if you see a student that you think really would do well with a lot of like kind of that one-on-one mentorship, this is a place for us to go. If you're a person who's passionate about worldview, passionate about being a Christian, send them to us. If you have a student that just absolutely loves that sense of community, send them to us. But also, don't forget those advantages that we have of that fifth year tuition free if you double major. Don't forget that free online master's degree right there. And then my other thing is, just in prepping for them, always encourage students to do as much as they can early. Always encourage students to start getting that planner so that they know, here are the dates that I needed to get stuff done by. And always encourage your students to read and write. No matter what major you're going to go into, you need to learn how to communicate effectively. Whether that's how we're communicating right now, whether that's specifically typing out an email, sending a text, you're going to have to learn to read and write there. So encourage your students to go to their English professor, or their English teachers, and say, what can I do better? But yeah, that's just kind of the big thing there, is come to Belhaven expecting to grow and willing to grow and willing to be surrounded by people who will help you when you fail and help you go forward.